What was the purpose of your visit today?
Well, I go to schools all the time when I travel, but in specific, Klondike has a very strong performance on our growth model, where we measure how much the children are learning wherever they started. Did they learn a year or more for a year of school? Klondike has an excellent record so far, and I wanted to commend them, but also have a look around, see how it is they get that done.
What did you learn, I guess, today at Klondike?
Great teachers, very engaged students, handling a lot of diversity, high expectations. I heard that in every class, that they expect the best out of every student and never give up. And this is a common theme that I see in the best of our schools.
What programs specific were you looking at? Were you looking at anything in specific that you've been trying to implement as governor that you wanted to see today as you walked around, or just kind of?
Here to learn more than anything else, but again, in the hundreds of classrooms I've been in, there are some very common themes. Excellent, motivated teachers. Where you find that, it can overcome all kinds of other problems. Sad home situations, poverty, inadequate facilities, and I saw several great teachers here today, obviously, and I'm sure that's the secret. Our number one proposal in this General Assembly is to identify and reward teacher quality in a way we haven't been doing before. The very best teachers in Indiana, and I just met several of them, should be lifted up, paid more than those who aren't doing quite as good a job.
You are in the Tippecanoe School Corporation, though, which saw more than 100 teachers get riffed prior to this school year. What do you have in your budget plan to address that? We have classes with 30 plus students in some of these elementary schools.
Of course, our classes here I counted. I never counted more than about 17, which is good. But well, the first thing is Indiana is number one in America. The percentage of the state budget going to education here is the highest in the country. There is no state in America that has preserved its education funding as we have. We have cut everything else vastly more. That's the first thing. Second thing, we can use some more help, honestly. We are carved into too many school districts. 40 cents of the education dollar doesn't get to these classrooms, doesn't get to these teachers. It's in administration and other and support services, and we could do better. Those are important things to do, but we could do better, and that's the real answer, honestly, to more dollars where they matter most.
And that, you would talk about cutting down on administration and that kind of thing to get more dollars in the fund?
Yes, on this trip, and I won't name places, but I'm going to be in a lot of counties. I'll be in counties where the entire county would fit inside one of the townships here, but they'll be carved into 3 or 4 districts. And it's something we ought to modernize, because, again, it means that too many resources don't get where they ought to be, paying teachers and classroom facilities. So,
State of the Union address last night.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
You caught me. I didn't watch it.
Oh, you didn't?
I was watching the Purdue game as long as it was
I did too.
watching. Honestly, I've read the accounts. I've got the text of the speech, and I'll be reading it between now and the next stop. But I think I'll just say that I'm very hopeful that we're going to see changes in national policy. There were some hopeful notes I've read about in last night's speech, but maybe still not enough emphasis on heading off the fiscal crisis that we're heading for, like an iceberg in this country. So I hope that there'll be a little more attention paid to that than it seems that the president did last night.
Mr. Governor?
Sir.
Many teachers across the state are concerned about the future of teacher training and emphasis on teaching methods rather than just bringing in ex-professionals into the classroom with very little instruction in the process of teaching.
Yeah.
What are your plans to preserve teaching teachers how to teach?
All right. I think we've made a very important step by emphasizing content mastery in teaching. The studies, and they're voluminous, are clear that there is virtually no value in the pedagogical, in the excessive concentration on methods and pedagogical. There's no connection between that and good student outcomes. If anything, it's the reverse. So there's the new standards, the new licensing standards for future teachers. There's still a requirement, of course, for some methods, but it's not nearly so much as before. And in the future, kids at Klondike and elsewhere will be taught by, we will know that if you're teaching math, you know math. If you're teaching history, you've proven you know history. Yes, you'll have had some methods instruction and some practical experience, but no apologies for the work we're doing to get scientists into the classroom, mathematicians into the classroom, people who have command of the subject matter, and then we'll hold them accountable there. Those who don't get good results, we'll ask them to look for something better to do. But we think we've made a very important step forward. There was too much emphasis on how-to courses and too little emphasis on knowing the what it is that needed to be taught.
State Road 25, the Hoosier Heartland.
Yeah.
I guess your thoughts on that, how the progress is going.
Well, you know, in our first of all, one of my stops on this trip is exactly for that purpose. I'm going to drop by and get a briefing from the INDOT people on site. But I keep right on top of that project of all the 200 plus projects that our major moves effort has made possible. This may be my very favorite. And it's way ahead of schedule, it's under budget, and we're going to keep pushing ahead with it because of the way it's going to link some of our great towns, starting in Lafayette, but Delphi and Logansport and Peru and Wabash and some of these towns that have made Indiana great, and it'll be so much more closely linked to the national and world economy. And so we're pushing very hard to get it completed at the first date. I hope to hear later today that they found another way. They've been finding ways to accelerate it. And I hope that they'll tell me that they've found a couple more.
Mr. Governor, this is kind of a random topic, but I've been doing a story about your legislative liaisons.
Yeah.
How important are they to you?
You mean the people who represent us?
Yeah, like Lauren Lewis.
Sure, they're instrumental. They're extremely important. You know, we always have, and especially this year, a very vigorous agenda of our own.
Mm-hmm.
That has not always been the case. Some governors were waited more for the legislature to decide what the bills should be. When you have a very ambitious agenda, as we do, obviously keeping the state in the black, but then criminal justice reform and local government reform and education reform, you really have got to have great people to communicate what we hope to achieve, why we think it's important, get people the facts, answer their questions. And so I think probably more than most of my predecessors, I need really great people, and they have to be people who understand and are idealistic about the state. They have to, it's not just a job, they have to really, one thing I'll say about them, they really are enthusiastic about getting these things done. And I think it makes them good advocates. And you know, I talked to as many legislators as I can, but there's only one of me.
Yeah.
And there's 150 of them. And so yes, I need great people, and I think we have them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for noticing. Okay, is that it? Thanks for coming out.